Hello, hello, hello. Well, it's the third week of this amazing Wealth 5.0, and today I've got two lovely ladies, one all the way from Austin, Texas, and one, I can never remember your city you're in, but Saudi Arabia is where the country you're in, as I understand it. So welcome to both of you. It's wonderful to have you online tonight.
Hey, Scott, it's wonderful to be here. And like I just said to Lee, like that part of the world is sort of one continent to me.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be with you. It is my first couple of days in Riyadh, which is the capital of Saudi Arabia. I've just moved here from Dubai, and it's still new days, but it's exciting and it's fabulous. And we are going to have a powerful webinar with Hilda. So we look forward to everything she's here to share with us.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I need to remember that Riyadh. For someone who got the geography prize, I should know this stuff. But anyway, that's cool. You can see how good my education was. So we are really excited. This whole October series we've built up. As I tend to say to people, the very first webinar was more of a beginner, and it's getting more and more advanced as we move through. Tonight we're going to be looking at how to build a $100 million business, sell it, and live wherever you want. A true global citizen. And I'm really, really excited because it's all good and well sometimes to know the theory, but it's so much better to understand it from someone who's actually practically done it in terms of where we're at. In terms of where we're looking and what we're talking about, it's all around the concept of Wealth 5.0. This started with the Japanese, and they call it Society 5.0. Roger Hamilton talks about Entrepreneurship 5.0, and we've galvanized that into Wealth 5.0. And it's really how to not only survive, but thrive as one goes into the next decade. Now, tonight we're going to be talking about certain parts of Wealth 5.0, and this whole system of webinars and live events and everything we're doing is really building towards the next decade and helping people set themselves up for success. You've got your impact, you've got your creativity, how to use your own creative mind to create value. You've got high touch, how many people are you touching, how much value are you adding? You've got high tech, what is your understanding of tech and how you can exponentially grow? And you've got digital. It's about problem solving and about future proofing. We started off this webinar series back, it feels like months ago now, but it was only 3 weeks ago, on the 5 secrets to offshore real estate investment success. Now, if you go to this link, which is up on the screen, you actually got the recording from the webinar, which was, is it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago? Lee, I can't remember, 2 weeks ago. And then we did the webinar last week on how to immigrate overseas financially and physically. And again, that webinar is up there. You can go and get the recording in terms of what we're looking at. Tonight, we're going to be looking at how to build a $100 million business, as we've said, and there's a whole bunch of things that we're going to be going into. And then next week, we're actually going to be dealing with Garth Wellman. Garth was introduced to us by Hilda many years ago, and we're going to be looking at how to not only create but preserve wealth offshore, your tax, your structuring, how to future-proof yourself for 2020. And what I'm really excited is, copying some of the things that the wealthiest families are doing. How do you build a balanced portfolio? What sort of structures should you be looking at? Is South Africa and other emerging markets good or bad, in terms of your investment structure? What is the future of the world economy? A lot of people are concerned in terms of where the world economy is going. And most importantly, 2020 and beyond, what do we look at and where do we go? Tonight, what we are asking is that if we add value to you, and that's always our intention, really go out and please share it with your family and friends. I believe that the lessons that the people like Hilda can share are so invaluable. And one of my deepest frustrations is I don't think we reach enough people. We don't share the knowledge so that others can learn from it. And then we're going to talk tonight about the breakfast. We'll talk about them at the end. We've got live events around the country. You can see the dates here. It's Durban, the 12th of November. It's Cape Town, the 13th of November. It's Johannesburg on the 14th of November. And it's Pretoria on the 15th of November. And what we're going to be doing is I'm actually going to be starting off the morning. And as I said, I'll talk to you a little bit later. And then Hilda and Garth are going to be joining me. And we're going to be going a lot deeper in terms of what you're actually learning tonight. So it's going to be really, really exciting. And then something that Hilda actually mentioned to me back in, I can't even remember now if it was as far back as February. But Hilda had an idea, and we started evolving it around, how can we take some of the best skills and knowledge that Hilda's learned over the years and actually put it into one place. It's about compressing time. And we're going to talk, tonight, and if you enjoy what Hilda's going to share, we're actually going to put a masterclass together for a day and a half which is going to be the 15th to the 17th of November, and I'll talk more about that later in terms of the detail. But you can see all the different sessions and skills that one will get. And what I would request, Lee, just for people that are interested, if you could just put the link for both the breakfasts and the Wealth Weekend and the masterclass in the chat box for everyone. And for those that are going to watch the recording, I will just bring it up for you very quickly here. You basically got the link here. You literally go to wealthmigrate.online/wealth 5.0, and then the other one is here. And as I said, Lee will put this in the thing, but you can see it's masterclass and a couple of numbers there, 329-40800. I don't know if I've got the right link, but anyway, it is what it is in terms of where we're at. And so without further ado, I want to get started in terms of the theme for tonight. We always ask you every single week, why are you here? Everyone always wants to focus on the how and the what, but unless you get clear on your why, then you won't actually, get the real value. And so do me a favor, let's get into active, let's get into the little chat box. And if you can just write down and tell us why you are here. And while you are doing that, I'm not going to share the story of my dad. In the last 2 webinars, I've shared the story of my dad. I've explained why we do what we do and what the business's purpose is. I also explained the story of my uncle and how he became a global citizen and how it enabled him to immigrate to Australia, to buy a house for cash, to put his kid through a private school, to never have to work for an Australian. So I'm not going to repeat those stories in terms of going through it and what we're looking at. So I can see a couple of people are putting in why they're here. And one person said, will the presentation be shared after the webinar? Tim, we can share it. It's much better to be engaged with it. In terms of the presentation, it's primarily going to be a Q&A in terms of what we're looking at. Now, what I wanted to do is, while people are writing in there what they want to get out of this webinar, I wanted to start with a little video. Now, some of you might not have seen this video. We've actually just recently updated it, so I don't think Lee or Hilda have even seen it. And I wanted to share with you because it really explains our why, and then even our how and our what, and hopefully gives you a good introduction as we get into Hilda. So, what is this webinar about? It's ultimately about freedom of choice. It's about a peace of mind. It's about preservation of wealth, and it's about a plan B. And that's really for us what we epitomize when we talk about a global citizen. And as you all know, I've already asked you, why are you here? Because I'm a very big believer that when you get clear on the center of your bullseye, you've got far better chance. So thank you to all the people who have put it in here to become a global citizen, to build wealth and legacy, close to retirement, and I want financial freedom, I want knowledge which opens up opportunities to learn and share how to get financially wise, to support both my parents, are just a few of the ones that I can see coming through. But where I want to pivot now is we talk a lot about real people, real stories. And what I'm so excited tonight to share with you is truly a lady that has been decorated, has won numerous awards all over South Africa, Africa, and even globally, has built her business from scratch, has sold it, and has had the ability to not only invest around the world, but ultimately to live where she wants. And ultimately for me, that freedom that we speak of is the epitome of that global citizen. And so Hilda, it's with a huge amount of honor that I want to welcome you tonight, and thank you very much for coming online and sharing with people so that they can learn some of the tricks skills that you've learned over the last couple of, I don't know, I'll say couple of years to be polite.
Be nice. There's many years under the belt here that I can share.
No, awesome. Well, listen, if you don't mind, what we spoke about, and where I think the most value for people is that if we just sort of do presentations, people don't tend to get the most value out of it. And so what I would love to do is sort of run through a sort of a Q&A. And what I'd recommend people to do is, if they've got questions as well, chuck them in the chat box. Hopefully you found the chat box. It's in the top right corner, and this is the value if you're watching the recording or turning up live, because you get to interact. But my first question is what is your story? You know, it's always such a fascinating story. I've heard it a few times, but I just love hearing how people take on adversity and have dreams and visions and ultimately turn them into reality.
Thank you, Scott, for being here and for giving me the opportunity, and for attendees that's actually giving me your most precious resource, which is your time, to join us tonight. And I really appreciate that. I just want to say we only have a very short time, and Scott is want to ask a lot of questions. So for me to be able to give the best value to everyone attending is, please post your questions so that we can see and we can know what it is that you really are interested about, and not just me talking. Many people have heard my story. I probably only now coming into really sharing the vulnerable parts of my story, which there's no time tonight to do that. But I grew up in Cape Town, a really humble beginnings. And when we say humble, it's a nice word to say poor. And we really grateful for where I am right now in life. My mother was always adamant. We were 3 girls that we're going. All of her children were going to get an education, the best education possible. And sorry, I just want to quickly see here. The best education possible, and that was sort of drilled into me, is be your best, try your best, and learn the most you can out of every situation. So when I grew up in 70s, 80s, when you finish school, it was not really expected of a woman to really achieve much in life, and a lot of women would know this, other than you potentially go to university to meet a husband and then do a great job where you can have flexibility to take care of the kids while at home, and where you can when you can support your husband. And I was always rebellious to this idea. But so I became a pharmacist because it was a good job for a woman at that point. And what I've learned, so what I'm going to do is every question Scott asked, I've sort of going to put it into my lessons learned. Is sometimes life takes you on these curves to get you to the place where you're supposed to be. And my life took many directions and turns and courses. And now looking back, every bit of wrong decision or place that I end up added to the knowledge and the experience that make me this person and make me this unique person amongst billions of people. In 2001, my life really catapulted and exponentially changed when I endeavored on starting my own business, which was healthcare. In that point, like I said, I studied to be a pharmacist, and making that brave decision to leave a very good senior management position in a big corporate and starting my own business was probably one of the boldest I've done up to now, other than moving to America. But also it gave me the experience I have to make a difference and an impact to the world. So my journey was growing up, study hard, work hard, start my own business, and then manage to exit 10 years later and catapult my life into creating my best life. In a short nut. Shortly.
Just the one thing I will add there, which
the breakfast and the masterclass if you want to know more.
I do think the one thing that was really interesting is that you also, within the pharmaceutical space, really actually pioneered the whole natural industry, basically, and it was really interesting how that took place. And I've obviously heard different parts of that story, and it's really interesting, because not only did you start your own business, but you also pioneered a whole new industry. And that it's one thing to start an accounting business and be an accountant like everyone else, but the point is to pioneer a whole new business is really fascinating, and ultimately enabled the exit in the big picture and what you're looking at.
And I'll touch a bit on that later through as per our discussion.
No, perfect. So the next question was, what do you believe is the secret sauce in business? You've had a highly successful business. Everyone's just heard the story, and one of the things I love to ask successful people is that there's always a couple of little gems that everyone's got, and I wanted to know, what do you think is not only your own secret sauce, but generally the secret sauce to success in business?
I think to be a little bit ahead of the trend, not too far. So a secret sauce has many ingredients that I don't think there's any one thing in a business that makes it, it was that thing. It is the recipe, it's the menu, it's the combination of things. And it might not be, it might be that little bit of spice that you put in, and it might be the lot of other things that you put in. But for me, I think the secret to many businesses is to be not too far ahead of the curve, but to be slightly ahead of the curve so that you create that market. It's very hard to create a market because you need to change consumer behavior and you need to do a hell of a lot of education. But it means that while everybody else is fighting over sort of the crumbs and the scraps that's falling off the table, you are busy moving the market to where the market's going, and you are creating a whole new cake that you can have the biggest slice of. And whenever the rest of the market, your competitors, everybody's moving, or so, oh wow, there's a new market, or here's a new industry, or here's a new category, you already own that. And then the rest of the people will really just, they have to fight over the 30% of the market while you own 60% of the market. So I think for me was the passion about the problems I wanted to solve, understanding that, and the passion for our customer, the person that we're actually helping, and bringing that passion through in our products, in everything that we do, and be able to produce a product that actually the people that needs it can afford it, because very often there's amazing products, but it's so expensive. So that was the trick. I needed to challenge everyone in our supply chain is, how can we create this amazing product that actually works, that says that we're going to do, and be able to be affordable. But it set everybody else in different thinking, and the 10 years I had to deal with, it can't be done and it's not possible, and and now speaking to those same people,
I've never heard that before, Hilda.
now looking to the people, or speaking to the people that told me 10 or 15 years ago things aren't possible, they actually giggle about themselves, and the one guy actually thanked me, because just by pushing him and say, we got to be able to do better, we got to be able to think differently, we got to be able to do what I want to do, find ways. His whole world explained it as a manufacturing pharmacist that follows the rules and So by pushing people, they will change, and when they will change, they got on board and they helped me creating what I wanted to do. I think the lesson I've learned now thinking back is, if you want to have 100 million, a billion, doesn't matter what currency you're talking about, you need to solve $1 million problem or $1 billion problem. You cannot come from solving small problems and making a lot of money. Money is just an energy. So it's exchange, it's Newton's law, or someone's law that says energy cannot be produced or destroyed. It can only transfer from one form to another, which is money is just an energy. You solve a massive problem, you are rewarded with a massive amount of fun, money, wealth, whatever you want to call it. And if you focus on solving that $100 million or $1 billion problem, your thinking change, the question you ask change, you see problems in a different way. And I think if you look at every person who's created massive wealth and massive success, they solved a $1 billion problem. They looked at the problem in a different way than the average person looked at a problem. And they were the ones that set out and says, what can be done about it? So you can do, it's the same thinking. You can do it with $1,000 or $1,000 problem, or you can choose the bigger problems to do it. And that is how you get rewarded with wealth.
Brilliant, Hilda. You know, I always say to my son when he says, I want money, and I go, that's fine. How do you make money? And he actually knows now, add more value. And, you know, at a 7-year-old, I'm trying to instill what you actually said. You know, if you want to solve, you know, if you want to make $1 billion, solve $1 billion problem, which I love that analogy.
And I think if kids learn, it's not about the money, but start finding ways to add value. I used to always tell the people that report to me is, I buy your time. So when you create value to me and you give me another 9 hours or whatever many hours, it's worth the money I pay you. It's that exchange of energy. And I keep on saying to my kids when they come, I want something is, okay, let's go change the I want into something that will add value to my life, and then you might get what you want. Yeah.
Love that, love that. So one of the things that's really interesting is that, you know, I've heard this from a few people in terms of a lot of people build businesses, but, you know, I've heard Roger Hamilton, I think, say this, where they're actually just building another job, you know, and you know, where ultimately, if you don't have the end in mind as to how you want to exit the business, you know, you've got a problem. And I just wanted to understand from you, you know, if you thought there's any specific keys to building a business and then selling it, because you've been through it highly successfully.
So I'm going to put it out there. Robert Kiyosaki, I think in his Rich Dad Poor Dad book, says there's no such thing as a poor, successful entrepreneur. I'm going to repeat that. There's no such thing as a poor, successful entrepreneur. If you are poor and an entrepreneur, you are not successful. It's so, again, the way the entrepreneur, your own business, is how you show up in the world, is what you manifest. It's your thoughts, it's the actions. And so many entrepreneurs are building something that's purely not saleable through the name, through the brand, through the products or service that you create. It's not saleable. So I had, and I don't know how, I think it was my accountant right in the beginning that said to me, you go create a business that someone wants, like create a bride for the perfect bridegroom. And even if that groom never arrives, you have something that someone can want or that you get rid of when you want to, and you can call the shots. A lot of people start a business and they think they're going to have it forever, and then the kids are going to take over. And in these days, very few children take over their parents' business. So this, and you are fortunate if you do have children that's actually interested in your business, that want to do it. But so create something that you can sell, even if you never want to sell it. And by that is this, I'm going to get to the three things that I think that's really important. But start looking at who's the players in your industry. Understand deeply what's happening in the industry that you play in, and for who it will make sense to acquire you. Or even if it is just to understand what your competitors are doing. If you know the trends in your industry and you know who will be the acquirers, even if they're not in the industry, the typical businesses that will acquire your business, you stand a chance to create something for them that creates something of value. And I'm going to give you an example. When when I started the nutraceutical company, nutraceuticals was nothing. Everything, there was just a shift from prescription medication to generic medication. And most of the pharmaceutical companies were growing by acquisition, and they were growing by buying other pharmaceutical companies, and then the trend started buying generic companies. And I understood very early on that it's a matter of time, a couple of 3 to 5 years at that point, where the pharmaceutical companies would need to buy nutraceutical companies because there would be nothing else to sell. So by creating a business that's right and that fits in with the right system, policies, procedures for a pharmaceutical company, it made sense for them to acquire us versus everybody else. So my 3 lessons that I know investors and acquirers are looking at, or if you're looking at buying a business, are the 3 P's: the people, process, product. Your team, your people are probably the most important one, because if you get acquired and you get out of the equation, will your business survive without you? Do you have enough skills in your business to make the acquisition successful and for them to be able to continue and grow your business without you? Your products, is your products got longevity? They don't want to buy a business and then 6 months later the products are null and void. So your products must have longevity where they can keep on selling it for another 10, 20 years. And then the processes that you follow in your business. Document it, know that you manage the assets, and your asset is your cash, your physical product, and whatever goes around creating value in your business. Those are, I think, the 3 things that are the most important to build a business. And there's a methodology, and you can talk for hours just on each one of them. But go and review. If you have a business, or if you start on a business, that is the foundation of where you should be building your business.
Awesome. Oh, thank you for that. If I let's pivot a little bit, and in terms of property, because a lot of people with regards to the Wealth 5.0 are interested, and some people around the world call it real estate. I love the picture of Monopoly, because I think everyone in the world understands Monopoly. And I just wanted to understand your sort of thought process in terms of how you started getting involved in property, real estate, etc.
So I think every person on the planet starts with this game, and that's either, and here you can already see if you got the knack for it or not, or if it's too stressful. I think property, since playing the game and then growing up and getting into the real world, was always, it started off really small hobby. I believe you need to learn first about a topic or subject or something that you want to make money at before you can actually make the money. So my hobby in my early 20s was reading the property sections of the weekend newspapers to see how quickly in what areas houses were selling or real estate was selling. Are prices increased, are prices decreased? Reading the articles. Before I even start looking, I would go to hundreds of show houses to see how they're marketing it, how they're selling it, so that I can have a gut feel for something. When you can only develop a gut feel when you have sufficient experience in something. And many people that I see and it's with anything in life that a lot of people are doing, they just want to enter and start investing without taking the time to learn about what they want to make money at, and are then surprised that they lose their money. So you've got to learn first, then you earn, and that's when I started. And then from then on, when we had businesses, we would buy real estate that would house those businesses, and that's so on, it grows. And then recently, probably about 5 years ago, started with international investments. So it's a journey.
It's a journey, and for those of you who saw the webinar, I can't remember, Lee, if you can remind me when it was. It was one of the WealthE Wednesdays where I actually gave the life cycle of a property investor, and it's so interesting because it maps out and follows very much what Hilda is showing. So in terms of offshore investing, and I don't just mean in real estate, I mean offshore generally, a lot of people and again, you're in America now, and I've met many Americans that can't understand why you'd invest outside of America. So just the thought of investing outside of your own city generally is very scary for someone. But to invest overseas, my question to you was, when did you start thinking about investing, overseas, internationally, whatever, outside of your country?
My offshore investing journey is more my plan B thinking. So for those that know me, I always have a plan B. My kids know me that we always have a plan B for whatever we're planning. And I think plan B now became a habit. Around 2014, I saw the trend in South Africa. I saw, the writing on the wall, and I don't want to live my life to be impacted by one ruler, one decision maker, one country, and all the laws of that country. And if you look at what the wealthiest people do, is they diversify their investments, and they diversify where they make those investments. That's the first thing. And the second thing, most of them has a real estate portfolio. So real estate, real estate has to be a category that you can decide what size of your portfolio it should be. But most wealthy people, if you follow just their behavior, is a portion of their wealth is invested in real estate. So saying that, I was lucky that I found WealthE Migrate, who had some amazing investment opportunities at that point, that I took some major stakes in, and really started creating offshore income. And that was my alternative. Is I realized if the rand lose even more value, then we needed to be able to find money or value somewhere else. And you can choose your currency, you can choose your country. I just chose the US dollar, and I chose America. I don't know, I just had this, at that stage, I wasn't even going to move here, but I just knew that it was going to be a good plan B for me and my life strategy. And I think if you look at if offshore investment is difficult to make, real estate is definitely the easiest offshore investment you can make, other than running a business or starting a business in a country that you're not present at. So that is, to me, more difficult thing to do. So I think the lesson for me in that is that you need to have a plan B thinking, and your plan B thinking does not need to be necessarily USA. It might be somewhere else, but just have a plan B that works for you. I am now in the US, and I'm already working on what is plan B for the US if things go in recession, if things go, if the world goes into a different direction, that we need to make other plans. And if anything else, learn about offshore investing, just that you can empower yourself with knowledge so that you can afford a plan B thinking.
Awesome, I love that. Empower yourself with knowledge. And having known you for a while, you're one of the people that probably is more goal orientated, and as you say, planning your life, not only plan A but plan B, as you just said. And I'd love to know from your perspective. People read this all the time, they hear it all the time, and yet still most people don't do it. What is the difference, and why do successful people not only set goals, but it's just in their mindset, in their genre, to be goal orientated and to be planning your life, like you just mentioned?
I think, I thought long and hard about, to me, I don't know why I've just always been goal orientated, and I think it potentially growing up in not wealthy circumstances made me want to me get out of those circumstances, and make me have to set goals of where I want to go next, and it sort of keeps you focused on the next thing, and you forget about the situation or the circumstances that you're in at that time. So right now, I think just life is just too short to not have goals, to not be focused on something and not be achieving something. The problem is when you achieve all your goals, what do you do then? And I've also been there when literally every goal I've set for myself, being like stupid goals like being a multi-millionaire in every currency in the world was a fun goal I set out to achieve, and like being able to live anywhere. Achieving all those goals comes with the next set of crises, because like, what now? I've achieved everything, I've received everything, how dare I set more goals? But right now, I think my goal is to become more consciously oriented. Where do I spend time? What do I spend my time on? What are my thinking? What are my thoughts? What am I busy manifesting at the moment? Because sometimes we're manifesting our goals subconsciously, and I want to now go through a phase where I'm busy on my legacy planning, on my the bigger, longer 50-year life goals, and with that, I think it comes more conscious thinking, and it comes more. I'm also doing a lot more work on myself now on growing my intuition to attract the right things. So without going all off track, I think you get what you deserve. So if you set goals, you will get closer to those things that you deserve. So it's not just setting the goal, it is deciding who is the person that deserves to achieve that goal. And that is the real personal growth, is to see yourself through the eyes of achieving your goal and just become that person where it almost just like it's just going to happen. And that is what most people don't do. They set goals, but they don't go the one step further, is to become that person that's deserving of achieving that goal. You need to be really clear and then start seeing things through the eyes of those opportunities. I have now set very many big, bold legacy goals for myself, and doesn't matter where you are. I was the first time I said to someone, this is what I want to do. It's like, oh my God, who said that? Like, I couldn't believe that I verbalized, because it wasn't me that. So now you have to learn to spend more time with your future self, the person that will achieve those things, than what you spend time with your past self, your memory of the things that can go wrong in your life. And the more time you spend with your future self, the more I now share with people what I want to do in my life, with my life, what my goals are, the more I find, the more comfortable I am talking about it, and the more people show up that want to help me achieve that. And that is the miracle of life, when you have clear goals and you step into the space of the person that deserves to achieve it. And that's why I don't know if it's goal driven. I work on deservability, not so much the goal.
That's brilliant. I love the way you contextualize that. And it's interesting listening to you talk. It sounds so similar to when you hear Jack Ma from Alibaba talk, where they talk in 50, 100-year timeframes, not just what can I do next year. Really,
before you move on to the next one, I was in a conversation with Richard Branson and his CEO, and she was then CEO of Virgin Unite. He's actually moved to as CEO of his family's legacy plan, and they're planning 150-year legacy now. She's putting the strategy for the whole Branson family together on, excuse me, on what the next 150 years look like. And we, as mere mortals down here, don't even sometimes plan the next month or the next year, but the people who leave legacies consciously plan, and they're talking decades and in hundreds of years. So that's where I learned that it's okay to think big, and it's okay to think long term. It's what we should be doing. So give yourself permission to do that, every family.
that's fantastic. So what fascinates me is, you've explained you're a pharmacist by background, you've come from a pharmaceutical industry, you've built your own business. But what's really amazed me was that when I first met you, sort of probably now 7 years ago, obviously from a technology perspective, you know, this was a new era for you. And yet what's been interesting is that as much as I've spoken to other people around the world around how technology is changing things and how exciting it is and how I think it's going to make big changes, I'd say that of everyone that I've ever met, you've probably taken more action than anyone I've met in terms of truly trying to understand where technologies are, what is happening, you know, how's it changing things, not only business, but some of the, you know, legacy stuff that you're speaking about. And I'd love to understand from your perspective why that's been so important, because everyone's heard about the fact technology is changing, but virtually no one that I've met has gone to the depths you've gone to truly understand it.
Looking back, I think your life is one of those dots that one day when I look back, I'll say, that was the dot that changed or into. And they say every journey starts of 1,000 steps starts with one step. After selling the business and then at the same time becoming a single mom, was, to me, the focus was, how do I become a better parent? How can I help my kids to show up into the world the best people the best humans they can possibly be? So how can I help them to become the best versions of themselves? And I knew that their world was going to be vastly different to the world we grow up in. And I cannot, as a parent, guide them. And that is like conversations that we have, the obstacles they're going to face, the subjects they need to take at school, if I have no clue what their world looks like. And so that is how it started, is just for me as a parent. And then I got so absorbed in it, and now I agree with you. I can probably say I can hold a conversation. I can see where the future's going. And I will even be so bold to say that I'm one of, Peter Diamandis says, the only way to predict the future is creating it, is that I'm one of the fortunate ones that are now able to create my own future, or the one that I see, but it's again through understanding. It is sitting with my children and helping them choose the subject that are not that they're ever going to do the job, but so that they can have the conversation and a clear understanding about it. So when I've set the intention, I think we had conversations, we've met people. You got me into the Abundance 360 group, and through Abundance 360, I migrated onto Singularity and did some of their programs and was exposed to the biggest thinkers and most amazing people in the world in all of these fields. So what a lot of people don't understand is it's not just one technology anymore, but it is the convergence. It's 3 or 4 technologies that's now coming together that is going to make an impact. And that the second thing I don't think people understand is that change, the speed of change is happening faster than what is predicted. So things that they would predict would happen in 2025 is already happening now. And that is what's fascinating me on the conversations when I attend these world groups that we get together once a year to talk, is the conversations of 4 years ago of what's going to happen in 10 years. It's already there. It's already happening. So people need to understand that change is coming faster than the predicted rate of change. And with that, everyone's world will change. Everyone's business, what you're going to invest in is going to change. The buildings of the future is going to change. So you need to have a constant mindset of change and learning, because the products, the services, the businesses that will be the biggest in the next 3 to 5 years does not exist yet. The jobs that your children are going to do, the jobs of in 3 years' time that's going to be in demand, does not exist. So how do you prepare for a world that doesn't exist right now? Is with as much knowledge and as much of an open mind and ability to change as possible.
I love that. I'm just writing that down. Open mind and ability to change. So, what fascinates me is when you look at it, I'm reading a great book at the moment called Thank You for Being Late. And they're talking about how, and I don't have time to talk about it tonight, we'll go into this in a lot more detail at the breakfast, where the convergence Hilda's talking about is that you've got these exponential change, and the acceleration, as she's already said, is happening faster and faster. But it's happening in the environment, it's happening in technology, it's happening in society, it's happening in politics even, it's happening in economics. And so the problem is you've got this exponential growth happening in all these areas and converging, which is like where 1 + 1 can equal 3, and sometimes 1 + 1 can equal 11. And that's what we talk about when one's starting to think, well, hang on, what does the next decade look like? And for me, it comes back. I want to sort of take it back, Hilda. We've spoken a lot over the last couple of weeks around being a global citizen and what does a global citizen mean. And it's interesting because you said you create your own future through understanding. And I love this little logo I found with "Be a leader for the future." But I wanted to know what does a global citizen mean to you? What is that freedom and the ability to travel and live where you want and invest where you want, etc. What does it mean?
Exactly that. You just gave me the meaning. I'm sure everyone will have their own definition. For me, is to be able, and to be able to be free of rulers. That there's such a lack of leadership in the world, leadership of countries, leadership of businesses. So, and I think that how borders are going to work and how governments will work over the next 10, 20 years are going to completely change. But I do not want to be a victim of a government or of someone else's decision. I want to have the freedom to be able to live where I want, invest where I want, and make money where I want. And if that doesn't mean, for me, it just worked to come to a place like America, but you can be in South Africa and still create your amazing, your best life, and still become a global citizen. It is just the thinking and understanding your definition and how you want to create your life, and then decide on the steps what that life look like. So for me right now, America works, and it was not the easiest thing to do, to give up and move. It was probably one of the hardest things, but I had the right frame of mind. And now looking back, I realized how tough that was and how overwhelming that was. But in the bigger scheme of things, I needed to be, I believe I'm being led to America for a reason, which is busy unfolding, and to just play in a bigger pond. But it's not everyone. Not everybody wants to live here. Not everybody wants to immigrate or whatever. And I just see it in my children now that they have exposed to bigger thinking and exposed to where things are just more competitive and on a larger scale, how they step up into themselves and being able to succeed.
So it leads in pretty well to the next question. Just by the way, I've only got a few more questions. So if you've got questions or stuff, we pretty much set it up on purpose to get a framework and a context, but please send your questions through so we can get involved. You've spoken already about how immigrating to America was one of the hardest things you've done. But what I think a lot of people don't understand is that, I speak often about when I watch wealthy people, the difference between wealthy people is that they're proactive and generally the rest of people are reactive. So, a currency spikes, call it the rand or any other currency spikes, and they panic and they send their money overseas and whatever, or government changes or whatever, and they react. Versus what I've learned with wealthy people, and that's why I used the story of my uncle, where, in 1980 he started investing offshore and he only immigrated in 2003, so 23 years of preparation. For your perspective, I know for a fact it equally didn't happen, on a 6-week period. You planned it for a long time. Talk us a little bit through that journey, not only the physical things that needed to happen, but more importantly, even the mental changes.
I think it's again to get back to my plan B thinking. Your plan B thinking starts a thought process. You start noticing, so what's the trends? What do I need to do? So I think probably 2013, 2014, the thinking started, okay, if I do need to make a change, if stuff is happening in our country, if my kids need to get out of the country, need to go study or need to do whatever, what does that picture look like? Where would that be? And to me, it made sense that it has to be an English-speaking country with entrepreneurial, what's the word, spirit, where they can have their business or where there's a lot of opportunities. And it's sort of by rule or by, you know, by eliminating countries. It again come back to America was an English-speaking country. It's really entrepreneurial. It's got really built on pioneers, and people get that, and that's still in the DNA. And you come and you work hard, and you can still make a success. So that was why America. So it's really just starting with the mindset. Once your mindset's there, and you know how to channel your focus and your thinking, you can then start going more in depth into what does this look like. I started investing in real estate in 2014 so that I can start saving my dollars up in America. And that now afforded me to be able to take a year off business where I can really set up my life and network and meet people and not having too frantically worrying about having an income and having a money, because those investments is keeping on paying. So the mindset, if you want to make a change happens in your mindset, in your mind first, with anything in life, whether you want to move countries, when you want to move house, when you want to change jobs, change relationships, whatever, the change sits in your head first. Once you clarify it in your head, you can then start and looking, then the rest is just like really taking action. I invested in the EB5 program. And through that took about 2 years for the application process to be granted, till I was granted the green card. And even in those 2 years, I wasn't even sure I ever wanted to move. I knew I needed a back door, I needed a plan B, but I wasn't sure that I was ever going to move. But at the end of by the time we got our green cards, the economic and political situation in South Africa was changing so fast that it almost forced my hand and forced my decision to say, okay, I want to just create another life or have another experience, even if it's for not forever, and that's what I then do. So once you get your green card, or you get your green card, your visa, you have 6 months to enter the US, to activate that visa. And then you get your green card about a month, a couple of weeks after that. So from the minute we got our visas in our passport, I then had 6 months. So then everything was boom at the same time. I then, all the planning and all the creation and all the manifestation, I then had to sell the house and all of the stuff, but to be able to relocate and find a place here. And then you just get on that roller coaster of moving countries, because everything already basically has happened.
Travelator got started basically.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears to a concept that I heard from you first, and I'd love to just talk a little bit about it. I've heard you mention it a few times in tonight's presentation, where the people are picking it up and living your best life and etc. And I'd love to know what that is in a little bit more detail, to you. And not just for you, but for others, for the people who are listening.
I think your best life is that life where you can bang your own drum and where you can make your own music. And to me, that is so important, to be able to say, I did it my way and I made my own music. There's a couple of songs to, like, when you can bang your own drum and play your own music, and doesn't matter if anybody else dance with you, at least you dance your own. And I make my kids listen to it until they want to, like, oh, they can't deal with it anymore. But I hope it sinks into them that they realize they don't need to follow the peers, and that it is okay to want to make your own music. So my best life is, for me, being able and being blessed to create the best life I can possibly want, I turned into, like I do with everything else, into some level of a methodology. And there's 3 methodologies to create your best life. One is the creation, is you need to know what it is you want to create and then set about a strategy to create it. But once you create it, and if it is money, if it is health, if it is wealth, whatever that is, once you created it, it needs to be maintained. And the maintaining is a different set of skills than the creation of that is. I am great at creating businesses and creating money through businesses, but I need a team that can help me maintain the business. And the third aspect is protect. So those are the 3 sort of cogs of living your best life: is understanding the creation phase, understanding the maintaining maintenance, and understanding how to protect whatever it is that you're creating for henceforth, for eons forth, that you can be remembered. And like I said, this similar is for your health, it's for your wealth, it's for your businesses. So this is what I think we will discuss a lot more at the breakfast, is what does best life mean, and what are the elements of your best life, and what are the sort of toolkit or set of tools, and which is really just thinking on what you want to create in your life, and what do you need to have to manifest or to show up in your own best life. For me, it is to live where I want, to not have to budget if I want to go on a holiday, or to buy the house that I want, but not being irresponsible. You know, if you don't take care of your wealth or take care of your talents, it will leave you. So you need to be shown that you can take responsibility of what is entrusted to you, but with gratitude, create a life that I want to live.
Yeah. It's interesting you said that, and we're going to talk a little bit about it just now, but my understanding is that the breakfast, we're going to talk about it more, and then on the weekend we're actually going to go through for a day and a half a process to help people actually create that for themselves. So it's one thing to understand the theory. Think of it like the metaphor I like to use is that we all understand the theory of driving when we went and did our learner's test, but that didn't mean that we could actually drive a car, and it took practice to drive the car. And so the breakfast will be the learner's test in terms of understanding the theory, and then the weekend is enabling those people who want to learn to drive to actually get in the driver's seat.
Exactly.
So my last question is something that you wrote down, and I found this very fascinating. You said the next decade is going to be one of the most important decades, not just for each of us, and we're all probably at an age where this next decade would be a very important decade, full stop. But there's a lot of talk, not only from yourself but others, that this is going to be one of the most important decades in the history of humans.
I think it is I think if for us older people, we need to change our thinking very fast, because the youth I think the 3 billion people under the age of 20 will hold us responsible for the actions we've taken and whatever we've done to people and planet. If we have businesses that is negatively impact the planet and the people, it will not be hidden anymore. You will be called out. So if you have a business and you are not already conscious on what is my impact, you will not have a business by the end of this coming decade. You need to understand what is the impact of your business, and how do you do to benefit the planet and the planet's people. The planet cannot sustain 5 billion people that live in squalor. It's the planet cannot, the migratory patterns of people because of climate change, because of poverty, because of hopes for a new life, is setting new precedents than ever before. And people don't leave their homes because they want to. They leave their homes because it's so dire where they're staying. So for us, that's educated, that's blessed to have business, that's money, that can read and write, it is our responsibility to to be able to make the changes to make this planet healthy again, if to put it like that. I mean, things are out of control. And then if you read the book, just to bring it back to the theory of, there's a book I read, The Pendulum, that says the pendulum swings every 40 years from the me generation to the we generation. So we are now fully into the we generation. We generation is all about the us, the community, the collaboration, the planet, and we will towards early mid 2030s, the pendulum is going back into the me generation, which is really capitalism, people doing it for themselves, almost like it was before the 1960s, before you know, in those eras. You'll start, new voices will then start hearing, but right now we are in the middle of, we need the regeneration where everybody needs to work together to make the planet a better place. We need to raise the consciousness. We need to give voices to those people that want to make a difference. We need to support the businesses that makes a difference, and we need to make people that's not taking responsibility, we need to hold them responsible. We need to hold governments responsible that's not stepping in to help their people. And that, I believe, we're all going to see in the next 10 years coming out. And we're going to look at 2029, and we're going to look back and think, wow, we don't recognize this world that we're staying in, with flying cars and self-driving cars, and you know, beaming from one place to the next. It's going to be an interesting journey the next 10 years.
It's amazing. It's amazing to hear that sort of that vision into the future. For those of you, you can see there's a poll up there, and you know, we always try and personalize your journey. So if you you know, let us know what you're thinking and you know, where you're at. I can see that a number of people have already voted. I'll leave it open for another 10 seconds in terms of, you know, where we're at. My next slide, which you won't be able to see, but I'm going to talk to it a little bit, is that, you know, really it's all about the laws of nature. You know, Hilda spoke earlier about effectively the laws of nature and how money is energy. And one thing I love about the laws of nature is you also get to decide, are you going to do this all on your own, or are you going to do it with others? And, you know, a bird flying on a flock can fly 70% further than a bird flying on its own. And you know, you really need to decide if you want to fly on your own or whether you want to be in a flock. And one of the reasons that we created the breakfast and ultimately the weekend was so that people could participate. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that for people, and then, you know, we'll go into the Q&A on some of the questions that people wanted to ask. So to remind everyone, we have been asked, we have got people in 133 countries. We are going to be doing this next year in India and other countries, but for this year, this will be the last event of 2019. And so it's the 12th of November in Durban, the 13th of November in Cape Town, the 14th of November in Johannesburg, and the 15th of November in Pretoria. The first session, which will be the morning session starting at 8 o'clock, will be how to invest offshore, the 12 most important things, you know, about investing offshore, how to manage risk and preserve your capital, how to diversify, which country, you know, how do you achieve wealth preservation at Plan B, what is the impact of currency, how does one get foreign passports, how do you find the right partners or even the right information, what are the fundamentals of the data saying. You know, one of the things that the people don't understand is they can literally get started from $1,000. What major trends do they need to be aware of, how to immigrate, how to have the freedom that Hilda's spoken about tonight, and most importantly, what are the secrets that the top 1% are doing that can be copied. And we're going to have a tea break, and then we're going to pivot into the mid-morning session where Hilda and Garth Wellman are going to be there. It's not going to be presentations, it's going to be a Q&A environment, and we're going to be looking at the global economy and what we should be, you know, what we should be looking at. Garth Wellman, you know, helps some of the wealthiest people, not only in South Africa but America. And you know, what are they looking at? Where are they going? What risks do we need to be aware of? What is he thinking in terms of where South Africa is and what we could or should be doing? One of the things I love is, you know, what about balanced portfolios and mixing of assets and how to become economically resilient, tax and structuring, and you know, also really the whole idea behind this. And hopefully there's been amazing comments coming through, Hilda, by the way, from people already tonight. But again, learning from people that have already been there and done that, you know, asking them, and getting their hands-on experience in terms of what's happening. And then as we've been talking now and alluding, starting to pivot into the next decade, and what do we need to do to be prepared so that we're not only surviving but actually thriving and protecting against those risks. And then we're going to have a special session around the whole Wealth 5.0 and some of the principles that people should be looking at. And that, you know, for anyone that buys a silver ticket, you're going to get a breakfast included, and you'll get both those sessions. Then what we've got for the gold tickets, which is the VIP lunch as well, is that we're actually going to go deeper. We're going to meet the partners. We've got property partners coming out. We've got immigration experts coming out, and they're actually going to be sharing the actual deals. So it's for people that really want to be able to take action and speak to the partners and, you know, leave with the result, basically. And then lastly, you know, you can see, so you've got the silver, which is the breakfast, and the gold, which is the breakfast and the lunch. And then what's quite interesting is that everyone that gets a ticket will also get our e-wealth pack, which I think I've shared and shown people. But there's a huge amount of value in this, over $5,000, where you'll get access to my book, the investor test, the 8 steps to the micro degree, the inner circle, the white papers, recommended reading, life hacks, etc., etc., etc. So we've literally condensed 20 years into a couple of pages, you know, for people. And then the last one was that this was actually Hilda's idea, and we've got, you know, I've been doing one-to-one sessions with people, but she actually spoke to Garth, and it was, you know, she said that for people that do the platinum tickets, they will be able to do a one-to-one session, an online one-to-one session with either Hilda, myself, or Garth. They'll have to actually choose, you know, who they want to do that session with. And, you know, it's obviously the ability for people, because most people are on a personal journey and have personal questions, and that'll be for people that take the platinum ticket. They'll get the breakfast, they'll get the lunch, and they'll get the one-to-one session in terms of where we're at. So
I just want to mention, sorry, can I interrupt you? The one-to-one, it will be an online Zoom or Skype meeting. It won't be at the breakfast. There might not be time at the breakfast so it will be a separately scheduled session. Yeah,
100%, Hilda. So I've got the website open now, so it will be online because it's a tight schedule over the week, and you can go and read all about it, and you can literally book online and reserve your tickets. I know that there's a you know, a discount at the moment in terms of people being able to participate, and where we're at. And then, you know, you can see the prices here. It is in dollars. We're a dollar-based company. We like people to think in dollars, and it's all about being a global citizen. The good news is that before the 31st of October, there's a 20% discount. So for people that take action before the end of October, you can actually get a discount off the prices that are here. And so, you know, don't leave it to the last minute, because you're just going to pay more money for the same thing. And then lastly, you know, Hilda's spoken a lot tonight about, you know, your best life and mindset and how do you go about it. And she's actually put together this program with 10 sessions and all the different steps. Yep.
I need to again interrupt you there. It might change because that was for the 10-month program.
No, I appreciate that. And, you know, again, it'll obviously be adapted and on the day.
But it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and the whole idea is, like I said already, as that metaphor, is that the whole idea behind it is that it's all good and well to learn this theory. And you know, I've done so many of these things where I try and immerse myself. But if you come on a webinar, or even if you just come to a breakfast, you're going to get the theory, but to really jump in the deep end, you need to put the time aside. And that's what the 2-day immersion is. The Wealth Weekend is something that we've done for many years now. I think we did our first one in 2014, which is a weekend away. And it's with our wealth partners, which are shareholders and our top VIPs. And it's really, really an amazing weekend, not only of learning, but of fun experiences and everything else. And if you're a wealth partner, you would have got a private email with the discount code in terms of where you're at. There are only 20 spaces available for non-wealth partners, because it's pretty much an exclusive thing for our wealth partners. And there's no discounts or anything with regards to that, because the value is already there. It's worth thousands of dollars, quite frankly. And what I wanted to share with you is that we've got a lovely landing page as well, where you can go online, you can see the video about what it's all about, you can read about the different presenters, you can see the different sessions, and as Hilda says, this will be adapting and changing based on about the value that she really wants to deliver for you. So that is everything. My question to all of you before we get into some of those questions is, what are you doing to be a global citizen? You know, you've really all got a choice. I believe everyone can be a global citizen. It all comes down to the mindset. And, you know, my question is, are you ready for 2020? And we're giving you a gift. We're giving you ways that you can participate and become a global citizen. And so for those of you that are interested, you know, either fill in the survey that we've done and or just type in your number. It is much easier for the team to follow up with people that put their number in, literally the telephone number that you'd like us to reach you tomorrow, and the team can reach out to you depending on what you're looking for and how you're looking. We've also got the investor strategy sheets, which I will be sending out via email. And what that is all about is that the best and most important thing for us is that the more you personalize your journey and tell us what you want, the more we can personalize your journey. And so I will put this link in the chat box now, just for everybody, so that they can actually see it. But it's, you know, the more I've been helping people invest for 15 years. And the more you get clear on what you want, the more we can actually help you achieve what you want. So this is a survey, and I would highly recommend that people actually look to do this if they're having a one-to-one with me or Hilda or Garth beforehand, because it will get you clear on what you want, and then it'll help us be able to add more value to you in terms of that process. And so I wanted to go in terms of the questions. And so let me look here. I want to just go.
Can I, while you're looking there, and you, I just want to, I'm coming from America, and it's my honor to spend the time with my fellow South Africans, and I hope I get to meet as many of you as possible. But just to summarize what Scott is saying is, in life, you need a team, you need a community, and you need to show up. You need to show up in your own life, and you need to show up at places where you can find a team and community. And I think with the breakfast, the workshops, everything, it is an opportunity. And it might be that one thing that you needed to hear that you find, or just something that sets your mind off in thinking, and that when you step out of your everyday life and out of your day-to-day mundane activities, that you find where growth lies or where opportunities lie.
No, I love that. I love that, Hilda. And, you know, people have heard me say it so many times. I always try and put myself in the room when I'm the dumbest, poorest person.
Exactly.
Because the point is, you can only grow from there, you know. But I've got so many experiences. In fact, the weekend I met you, actually, we were on a bus to Kruger somewhere. And, you know, the bus was bloody terrible, and the toilet was broken. And JT Fox, for those people who know JT Fox, you know, took pleasure in ripping me off, and it was quite frankly quite an unpleasant weekend. But I mean, that you and I met, you know, through that process, and you know, we met some amazing people through that process. So, you know, I always find so much value in these things, and the people I meet, and the lessons I learned. And as you said, you know, it's actually often one thing you take away, not 50 things. It's the one thing you take away, and you're never going to get that one thing unless you're there, you know?
Yeah.
Let's look here quickly. So there's quite a few. I really enjoy listening to Hilda, very bright and switched on. I can identify with what she's saying, with being goal-orientated, only don't have a plan A and plan B, and don't believe I'm business savvy or what I want to do. Sorry, Nikki, it seems a statement rather than a question. So if you want to just clarify if there's a question in that, in terms of what you're asking for. Elaine has asked, sorry, Elaine or Elaine, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. Can you give me your thoughts on the difference between goals and intentions? And is there an energy difference?
I definitely think there's an energy difference. An intention is more it's almost the process before the goal, in my opinion. And then the goal is to stepping into, if my intention is to do this, then how do I turn that into an actionable goal that can be measured?
Okay.
But it's hard, if you don't have the right intention behind the goal, there's almost no point in setting a goal. If that makes sense. I don't know if she understands what I'm saying.
Cool. So Elaine, if that makes sense, great. And if it doesn't, just clarify. Nikki said about timelines getting shorter. I've talked about getting an electric car in 2025 in South Africa, but the cost of electric car is astonishingly expensive, and also the backup support in South Africa is non-existent. It's quite interesting, Nikki. I made jokes a couple of years ago that Tesla were bringing cars to South Africa, where most people in America go and park their car in the garage and then charge their car in the garage. In South Africa, they'll park the car in the garage and charge their house with our electricity issues. But I do think that, it's a fair point. You've got to wait. You spoke earlier tonight, Hilda, about consumer adoption, and you've got to wait until there's significant consumer adoption. Otherwise, you're a bit of an outlier and it doesn't necessarily work.
So I want to also put it out there that with the lack of infrastructure and with the problems currently in South Africa, in Africa, I believe there will be a leapfrog of solution. We don't have to do it the way the rest of the world's doing. Like most of Africa skipped the landline, like in telecommunications, skipped completely the landline phase and went straight into cell phone communication. In the time, there was also no cell phone infrastructure, but it was really quickly because it was practical. So if that means that we can have less cars and if more people can benefit of vehicle and transport of vehicles, we might find that the solutions will leapfrog the way we see things progressing. And while everything is currently in the disruptive phase, it looks like nothing's happening because there's not a lot of noise about things that's happening. But once it gets through the disruptive phase and it gets to, I can't now remember for the life of me what the next D is in the 6 Ds of disruption, it will just suddenly be there and we will wonder, how did it happen? We won't see the phases now of how it will happen, and we cannot, that's why don't try and see and plan a strategy for 3 and 5 years ahead, because until you know who the players are. Once all Mark Zuckerberg and whoever is mapping the planet with satellites to be able to give network connectivity to the globe, it opens up a whole another level of thinking, or of opportunities, where I think electrical cars and all of that will and might not be, like I said, the process to get from here to 2025 might not be the way we foresee it right now, but it will happen.
Hilda said, how did you detach yourself emotionally from this baby called your business and sell it? Or is it a question that everyone has a price?
No, I don't think you can sell your own business. So if you get to the point where you are serious about selling your business, get an intermediary, because this is the hardest thing you'll do by to sell your own business, to sell this own baby. So we were approached by an intermediary, but it was someone that I knew very well in the industry, and he dealt with all of my emotions, and then was able to translate it more logically to the buyer. So don't even try and sell your own business. It is, and there's got to be a reason. Obviously there was some other reasons for me that make sense. I love building a business when it gets to so large. It made sense to, at that point, accepted that offer. I was going through at that point at a potential divorce that was horrible. So there was many other factors that made me say this is the right thing for right now for me. And I did weigh up what would happen if I keep it, what would happen if I buy partners out. But at that point, to weigh up that you can fast track potentially 20, 30 years of your life in one deal, and then catapult yourself to a next level so that you can do so much more exponentially. And that was the decision that I really had to make, and that's why ultimately I sold out. But I was really involved in the handover and how they will do and how they will train, how they will take care of my baby.
Nikki says, "Wow, Hilda, you are my new hero." Craig, no pressure. Craig says, "If you look back 20 years, did your planning, goal setting, have you placed where are you now, or has it happened in a much shorter period based on who you networked with?"
I think 20 years is a long time, but I think it's right now, because I want to catapult to a completely different level of influence. It's the people and it's my network. So I'm working my way right now into a lot more higher influential network. Back then, once you create your first success, you need to really focus. You focus on one business, one product. You need to become that expert in one thing. Otherwise, it just looks like you're all over the show. And what the heck is this guy actually doing? What's trying? I have that luxury now to be able to talk real estate and technology, and because I understand business and I have created massive success in one aspect. So that's what you need to do. If you have created that one aspect of massive success, then you can afford yourself to talk about other stuff. If you haven't, focus on the one thing. Go deep, become the expert in one thing that you're doing. And I forgot the question. I'm talking too much. Can you just repeat that question? Oh, and yeah, my goals. Yes, for sure, the goals fast-tracked. And 10 years later, I had a document that I drafted to say, where I took like really people that changed the world, like Henry Ford said, the car for everyone, and I wrote it down. I want a product. My products must be used in every household. And one of when I read my big, heavy, audacious goals was to say, I wanted to become the Adcock Ingram of nutraceuticals. 10 years later, Adcock Ingram bought that business. So when I found my note, it was like, oh, wow, we did become the Adcock Ingram of nutraceuticals. It was not necessarily the way I thought it would be, but it became exactly what I set out initially 10 years earlier.
Wow. Heidi said, will the breakfast and lunch be streamed for internationals? Heidi, it is something we've thought about and looked at. At the moment, no. We've done a lot of events in the past, and we find that live events just work so much better than trying to stream. At best, the weekend masterclass we are going to look to record, but it's much better for people to be live. I understand if you're overseas, we will look at trying to find solutions, but generally I've found it's very difficult, and the internet breaks and then it doesn't work so well, etc. Nikki said, looking to get the funds together, enjoying the book. You've answered the questions. Tim said Tesla now has solar chargers, Google solar tiles. Yeah, it's brilliant. Elaine says, hi Hilda, I'm Elaine from Ireland. We met in Joburg at the RJHCC conference in 2017. Really enjoyed your story and ideas for the future. I presume you know what RJH is. I don't know if it's Roger James Hamilton.
Maybe, yeah.
Heidi said, polls don't have enough options, need another option to communicate specifics. As to the last poll, it's intentionally present but physically at the other end of the world, so other option would be for me to answer truthfully and correctly. We'll not be answering poll 3. Love the presentation. Cool. We will send the link out, that SurveyMonkey link, and I have put it in the chat box for everyone. If you don't have it, just shout. It should be in the chat box, and everyone should be able to click on it. If you decide to invest in property in the US and you don't need to withdraw funds from it, how long would it take to double your initial investment? I can answer that, Hilda. Basically, if you're looking at at an average of a 12 to 15% IRR, which is fairly conservative, you can then work on a 6 to 7 year period, which is generally the rule of thumb when it comes to investing, not just in property, but in the stock market as well, is that if you take the IRR and divide 100% by what you're getting, which is an annual return, then obviously you get the number of years that one would look to invest. That's a very short answer. I mean, I could answer that for half an hour. But
for me, and to get in, for me, why I make decisions on investing is for income, not so much for capital growth, because I think where we're going in a world that's growth is slowing down and there's talks of recession, there you need to look at what are the income payable, because you can't predict what in 5 years going to be with your capital. So you need to just at least get your capital out, but have maximum income. If you get 10+% per annum income, then you'll probably double your money over 5 years too.
Yeah, no, and I think very well said, Hilda. You know, we keep mentioning to people that the wealthy people that I've met over the years focus on income, and middle class focus on capital growth. You know, so it's a really important principle you just mentioned. Eileen said, have you any concerns around 5G RE health implications?
I'm starting to read about it, and I know it's been banned in, I think, Japan or a country. I'm not sure right now I think right now even just the amount of cell phones and the microwaves that our brains are being subjected to will have problems over the future. How much 5G would add to that is I'm not sure. I don't really have an opinion on that, but it will have to. So what I'm actually doing is I've had my brain waves. I love technology, so their brain hooked me up, and they measured my brain waves in certain conditions to see how the waves that we currently impact my brain. And now we're going through certain ways to normalize brain waves that's not normal. So there will be corrective therapies coming up also to mitigate the risk of the 5G waves, but it will definitely, I think already currently our brains are being manipulated, or the brain waves are being influenced by all the waves it's subjected to. There's not a lot of waves in that sentence, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
I'm conscious of the time here. We're coming up to the half hour. So if you want the link, I know that Lee's put the links in. If you're watching the recording, you can click on the links below, which will be in the recording. I do want to just, Lee, is there anything that I've forgotten that is important that needs to be mentioned this evening?
No, Scott, I think you and Hilda covered everything. We look forward to seeing everyone at the breakfasts and at the Wealth Weekends if they are lucky enough to be able to be part of our wealth partners or the 20 non-wealth partners. But Hilda, you delivered an amazing chat tonight. We've had lots of engagement and extra questions coming through, so thanks to our community.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for your time, and I'm looking forward to come home soon. Thanks, Scott, for making me come home.
That's brilliant. And I wanted to finish off and just remind everyone, you know, we've spoken a lot tonight. Hilda's spoken a lot around, you know, freedom of choice, and, you know, really, you know, I wanted to finish off with actually a poem that Hilda actually wrote for us back in 2015 with the wealth movement, and as a manifesto. You know, imagine a world where most or all people are literate, a world where education is part of the course, a world where women are treated as equals, a world where all people have access to investment opportunities. Imagine a world where 6 billion people on the planet who currently live in poverty can live a better life. Imagine that world. And at the Wealth Movement, we're aiming to create that world. And you know, this event, not only this webinar, but the breakfast and the weekend, is all part of this bigger picture manifestation in terms of, you know, wanting to create this world. And everyone that is coming to the live events and the weekend will be making a meaningful step towards, you know, this is a young gentleman that our community has been putting through a private school. You know, he wants to be a electrical mechanical engineer and could very easily be the next Elon Musk. And you know, it's one step that we're all contributing towards, you know, making a better future. I wanted to summarize, Hilda, a couple of my notes that I took down for people tonight. And if you bear with me here, you said life takes you on a journey, and you get what you want. You get what you want to be, or where you need to be, which you've said to me a few times personally. Secret sauce is not one thing. Be ahead of the curve, but not too far. Most people are fighting over the cake, but focus on creating a new cake. And the size of the amount of money is ultimately on how much value. You know, solve a problem of scale, and ultimately it's a law of nature. Money is energy. No such thing as a poor successful entrepreneur. You know, how you show up and what you manifest, and it's all about people, process, and product. You said around property that it was your hobbies in your 20s, and you said you've got to be able to build a gut feel. And to ultimately do that, you've got to have sufficient experience, and you've got to learn, and then you earn. You know, we speak so much about our inner circle, where people can learn and be part of it, and learn from other people and be mentored. You know, you spoke about plan B thinking and always having a plan B, and that wealthy people diversify their investments and tend to have a lot of their, or not a lot, but a part of their portfolio in real estate. I love what you said around goals, where you said life is short, you know, too short not to have goals. You've got to be focusing on legacy planning, conscious thinking and intention, intuition, and getting what you deserve. You know, you've got to become the person that ultimately deserves what you're wanting to achieve, and then spend more time with your future self. With technology, you said create your own future through understanding, and we've got to have a mindset of change and learning. As a global citizen, you know, we're lacking leadership at the moment, and not wanting to be a victim to other people's decisions, and ultimately have the freedom of our own choices, thinking and understanding to create the life, and ultimately playing in a bigger pond, not only for yourself, but for your children. I loved what you said around immigration, and I spoke last week around the number of people I know that have bought property and then used that property for passive income to allow them to create the life changes they want. But to do that, one has to change their mindsets, and it all starts with the head first. And then the best life is I love this, beat your own drum and make your own music. And you spoke about doing it my way, which I don't know if you do or don't know is my dad's favorite song, so a bit of an emotional one for me. And then you spoke about how we need to learn how to create, maintain, and protect, and you know, that's all around this best life. And lastly, as we go into the next decade, it's all about people and planet. And to enable that, you know, you've got to have the right team, you've got to be in the right community, and most importantly, you've got to show up. So I thought that was a pretty good way to end off. You know, Lee's given you all the links, Hilda shared a lot of her knowledge today, but yet it's only the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we're planning. And as she said, she's very excited about coming out to South Africa. We're very excited about having her here. And I challenge everyone to not only show up, but if you think this can add value to others, please share it with them. You know, this is a tremendous opportunity for South Africans to move out of the negativity and step into solutions. And I encourage you to please share it with people so that they can become solution focused. So that's all from me. It's been wonderful tonight, Hilda. Thank you so much for your energy. Lee, as always, thank you for setting up. It's been wonderful.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Scott. Bye.
And to the community, cheers. See you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Cheers, everyone.